The automatic doors of Memorial Hospital slid, open with a soft hiss, as Maya Johnson pushed her son's wheelchair through the entrance. The morning sun cast long shadows across the polished floor, and the smell of antiseptic mixed with fresh flowers from the reception desk filled her nostrils. Her son, 12-year-old Caleb, sat quietly in his chair, his thin fingers gripping a worn comic book that he had read at least a dozen times. His legs, motionless beneath a faded blue blanket, hadn't worked properly since the accident 3 years ago. Maya's arms ached from the morning routine of getting Caleb ready, lifting him, bathing him, dressing him, and then carefully placing him in the wheelchair that had become his constant companion. Her back protested with every step, but she pushed forward anyway. She always did. Single mothers didn't have the luxury of complaining about pain, especially not black single mothers working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on and food on the table. The hospital lobby buzzed with activity. Nurses in colorful scrubs rushed past, their shoes squeaking against the linoleum. Elderly patients shuffled along with walkers, and worried family members clustered in small groups, speaking in hushed tones. Maya navigated through the crowd with practiced ease, her eyes fixed on the elevator banks ahead. They were there for Caleb's monthly checkup with Doctor, the neurologist who had been monitoring his condition since the accident. As they approached the elevator, Maya noticed a man standing nearby. He was dressed simply in jeans and a plain gray hoodie, hands tucked into his pockets. His face was partially obscured by the hood, but she could see he was watching them. There was something about his posture, the way he stood so still amidst all the chaos, that made him stand out. Maya felt a slight unease but dismissed it. Hospitals attracted all kinds of people dealing with all kinds of problems. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. Maya maneuvered Caleb's wheelchair inside, turning it to face the doors. The man in the hoodie stepped in behind them, positioning himself in the back corner. The doors closed, and an uncomfortable silence filled the small space. Maya could feel his eyes on them, studying them. She instinctively placed a protective hand on Caleb's shoulder. Caleb, oblivious to his mother's tension, continued reading his comic book, occasionally making soft sound effects under his breath as he imagined the action scenes coming to life. His innocence was both heartbreaking and beautiful to Maya. Despite everything he had been through, despite the doctors who said he might never walk again, despite the kids at school who stared or whispered, Caleb remained hopeful and kind. The elevator stopped on the 3rd floor and the doors opened. Maya pushed the wheelchair forward, but before she could exit, the man in the hoodie spoke. "Excuse me," his voice was deep but gentle, with an unusual quality that made Maya pause. "Why did you bring your son in a wheelchair?" Maya froze. Her hands tightened on the wheelchair handles. Of all the invasive, inappropriate questions she had faced over the years, this one delivered in such a direct manner by a complete stranger caught her completely off guard. She turned slowly, her expression a mixture of disbelief and rising anger. "I'm sorry, what did you just ask me?" Her voice was controlled but firm. The man pulled back his hood, revealing a face that was perhaps in his late 50s. He had kind eyes, dark brown and intense, with lines around them that suggested someone who had seen much in life. His hair was graying at the temples, and there was a neatness about him despite the casual clothing that suggested discipline and care. "I asked why you brought your son in a wheelchair," he repeated, his tone not accusatory but genuinely curious. "It's just that I noticed something about the way he's sitting, the way his legs are positioned." Maya felt heat rising to her cheeks. "That's none of your business," she said sharply. "Come on, Caleb." She pushed the wheelchair forward more forcefully, eager to escape this strange encounter. But the man stepped forward, his hand raised in a gesture of peace. "Please wait. I didn't mean to offend you. I'm a specialist in neurological rehabilitation and orthopedic conditions. I've been studying spinal injuries and nerve damage for over 30 years. Maya stopped but didn't turn around. Something in his voice made her hesitate. It wasn't the usual pity she heard from strangers, nor was it the uncomfortable curiosity that people often displayed. There was a professional quality to it, a certainty. "I don't need your advice," Maya said, though her voice had lost some of its edge. "We have doctors, good doctors." "I'm sure you do," said gently. "But if you'll give me just 2 minutes, I might be able to tell you something those doctors haven't, something that could change everything for your son." Maya turned fully now, her eyes meeting his. She was exhausted from years of false hopes, of experimental treatments that led nowhere, of well-meaning people who promised miracles and delivered nothing. She had learned to be skeptical, to protect her heart, and especially Caleb's heart, from disappointment. "Who are you really?" she asked, her eyes narrowing. "Some kind of medical salesman, because we can't afford whatever treatment you're selling." Shook his head slowly. "I'm not selling anything. I'm not asking for money. I just want to look at your son's condition for a moment. If I'm wrong about what I think I see, you'll never hear from me again. But if I'm right, you'll want to hear what I have to say." The elevator doors had closed again, and they were alone in the hallway. A nurse walked past, barely glancing at them. Maya looked down at Caleb, who had put down his comic book and was looking up at both adults with curious eyes. "Mama, who's this man?" Caleb asked, his voice high and innocent. "Just someone who thinks he's a doctor, baby," Maya said, her protective instincts still on high alert. "I am a doctor," said, addressing Caleb directly now. "And I think you're a very brave young man. How long have you been using this wheelchair?" Caleb looked at his mother for permission. Maya hesitated, then nodded slightly. 3 years, Caleb answered. "Since the car accident, I can't feel my legs anymore. The doctors say the nerves got damaged." Knelt down beside the wheelchair, bringing himself to Caleb's eye level. "May I ask you some questions about your legs? Nothing that will hurt, I promise." Maya's instinct was to say no, to push past this stranger and get to their appointment. But something held her back. Maybe it was the desperation that lived in every corner of her heart. Maybe it was the way looked at Caleb, not with pity, but with professional interest and genuine respect. Maybe it was just exhaustion from carrying the weight of impossible hope for so long. "Fine," she said finally, "but we have an appointment in 10 minutes. Nodded his thanks and focused on Caleb. "Can you tell me exactly where you lost feeling? Is it from your waist down, or is it lower?" Caleb thought for a moment. "It's mostly in my legs. Sometimes I can feel a little bit at the top of my thighs, like tingles, but then it goes away." His eyes lit up with interest. "Tingles? Do these tingles happen randomly, or when you move a certain way?" "Sometimes when Mama is moving me around, or when I'm stretching in bed," Caleb explained. "And has anyone ever told you about these tingles? Have you mentioned them to your doctors?" asked, his voice growing more intense. Caleb shrugged. "I don't know, maybe they ask a lot of questions and I answer them." Looked up at Maya. "Has doctor discussed the possibility of nerve regeneration or incomplete spinal injury?" Maya felt a flutter in her chest. "He said the damage was permanent, that Caleb would likely never walk again. We've been focused on helping him adapt to life in the wheelchair, on building upper body strength, on making sure he can live as normal a life as possible." "May I touch his legs, just to check something?" asked, his eyes earnest. Maya nodded again, though her heart was pounding now. She watched as gently placed his hands on Caleb's legs through the blanket, pressing in certain spots, watching Caleb's face carefully. "Tell me if you feel anything," instructed, "even the smallest sensation." He pressed on Caleb's knee, his calf, his ankle. At first, Caleb shook his head each time. But then, when pressed on a spot just below Caleb's left knee, the boy's eyes widened. "I felt that," Caleb said, his voice filled with surprise. "It was like a tiny spark." Moved to the same spot on the right leg. Again, Caleb felt it, sat back on his heels, his expression thoughtful. "Mrs. Johnson," he said, looking up at Maya, "I think your son's case may not be as hopeless as you've been told. Those tingles, these responses to deep pressure, they suggest that there might be some nerve pathways that are still intact or possibly regenerating. It's not common, but it happens, especially in younger patients whose bodies are still developing." Maya felt tears pricking at her eyes, but she forced them back. "What are you saying? That he could walk again?" "I'm saying it's possible that with the right treatment, with intensive therapy and possibly some innovative procedures, he might regain some function. I can't promise anything, but what I'm seeing suggests this is worth investigating further." The hope that Maya had buried so deep began to claw its way to the surface, but with it came fear. Fear of disappointment, fear of hurting Caleb if this led nowhere, fear of the cost of whatever treatment this man might suggest. "Why are you telling us this?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. "Why do you care? You don't even know us." Stood up slowly, brushing off his jeans. "Because I know what it's like to watch someone you love suffer and feel powerless to help them. And because I believe that every child deserves a chance, regardless of who their parents are or what they can afford." "We can't pay for expensive treatments," Maya said bluntly. I work 2 jobs just to cover rent and his basic medical needs. Insurance barely covers anything. We can't afford miracles. I'm not asking you to pay anything, said quietly. What I'm asking is for you to trust me enough to let me run some tests, bring in some colleagues, and see if we can develop a treatment plan. No cost to you. Maya stared at him, searching his face for any sign of deception, any hint that this was too good to be true. Why would you do that? Nobody gives away free medical treatment, especially not specialized care. Was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. Let's just say I'm in a position where I can afford to help people who need it, and your son needs it. Who are you really? Maya asked again, this time with less suspicion and more genuine curiosity. Someone who believes that money shouldn't determine whether a child walks or not, replied. That's all you need to know right now. The hospital intercom crackled to life, calling for a doctor to report to the emergency room. The sound broke the strange spell of the moment. Maya looked at her watch. They were going to be late for the appointment. I need to think about this, Maya said. This is a lot to take in. Reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple business card. It had only a name and a phone number. No company name, no title, nothing else. Take your time, he said, handing her the card. But don't take too long. The younger the patient, the better the chances of recovery. Every month matters. Maya took the card, her fingers trembling slightly as she slipped it into her purse. She looked down at Caleb, who was watching both adults with wide, hopeful eyes. She could see the question in his expression, the desperate wish that maybe, just maybe, this stranger could do what no one else had been able to do. Thank you, Maya said finally, though she wasn't sure what she was thanking him for. The hope, the attention, the possibility. Nodded and pulled his hood back up. I mean what I said. Call me when you're ready, or if you decide you're not interested, that's okay too, but I hope you'll at least think about it. He turned and walked down the hallway, his hands back in his pockets, his gait unhurried. Maya watched him go, her mind spinning with questions. Who was? Why had he approached them? How could he afford to offer free treatment? Was this real, or was it some kind of elaborate scam? Mama, do you think he can really help me? Caleb asked, his voice small and filled with fragile hope. Maya looked down at her son, at the trust in his eyes, at the way he still believed in possibilities despite everything he had been through. She wanted to protect him from disappointment, but she also didn't want to steal his hope. I don't know, baby, she said honestly, but we'll figure it out together, okay? Caleb nodded and picked up his comic book again, but Maya noticed he wasn't really reading it. He was thinking, dreaming, hopping. And Maya knew that whether this was legitimate or not, he had already changed something. He had reminded them both that hope wasn't completely dead. Maya pushed the wheelchair toward Doctor's office, but her mind was elsewhere. She thought about the tingles Caleb had described, the responses had elicited, the confidence in his voice when he said that things might not be hopeless. She thought about the simple business card in her purse that might hold the key to her son's future or might be nothing but another dead end. As they sat in the waiting room, surrounded by other patients and their families, Maya pulled out her phone and typed his name into the search engine. She expected to find nothing, or perhaps a social media profile, or maybe a small clinic somewhere. What she didn't expect was what actually appeared on her screen. Her eyes widened as she read, her hand instinctively covering her mouth to prevent any sound from escaping. Wasn't just a doctor. He was one of the most renowned neurological surgeons in the country, a pioneer in spinal injury treatment, the founder of multiple medical research institutes, and according to several articles, a billionaire philanthropist who had largely disappeared from public life 5 years ago after a personal tragedy. Maya's hands trembled as she scrolled through article after article. There were photos of inelegant suits, shaking hands with presidents and celebrities, accepting awards, giving speeches at medical conferences. There were stories about his groundbreaking work, about patients he had helped, about his innovative techniques that had revolutionized treatment for spinal injuries. And then there were the more recent articles, the ones from 5 years ago. They told a tragic story of loss, of his wife dying from a rare neurological condition that even his expertise couldn't cure. After her death, he had stepped away from public life, donated most of his fortune to medical research, and seemingly vanished. Maya looked up from her phone, her mind reeling. The man in the gray hoodie, the one who had approached them so casually in the elevator, was Doctor. Not just any doctor, but possibly the best doctor in the world for what Caleb needed. and he had offered to help them for free. She looked at Caleb, who was now talking to another child in the waiting room about superheroes. She looked at the business card in her hand, at the simple phone number that could change everything. She thought about the years of struggling, of working herself to exhaustion, of watching her son adapt to a life he never should have had to live. She thought about the possibility that maybe, just maybe, this was the miracle she had stopped believing in. "Caleb Johnson," a nurse called from the doorway, clipboard in hand. Maya stood up, her legs feeling weak. "That's us," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As she pushed Caleb's wheelchair toward the examination room, she made a decision. She would listen to what doctor had to say, ask him about nerve regeneration and incomplete spinal injuries, and see if his answers matched what had suggested. And then, if there was even the smallest chance that was right, she would call that number. Because what kind of mother would she be if she didn't at least try? The examination room was small and sterile, with anatomical charts on the walls and the usual medical equipment arranged on a counter. Doctor entered a few minutes later, a kind-faced man in his 60s with silver hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. "Good morning, Maya Caleb," he said warmly. "How are we doing today?" Maya took a breath. "Doctor, I need to ask you something. Has Caleb's condition ever shown any signs of improvement? Any indication that the nerve damage might not be as complete as we thought?" The doctor looked surprised by the question. He pulled up Caleb's chart on his tablet, scrolling through notes and test results. "Well, his condition has been stable. The paralysis is consistent with his initial injury. Why do you ask? Has something changed?" Maya described the encounter with the tingles Caleb had mentioned, the responses to pressure. As she spoke, she watched Doctor's expression carefully. He listened intently, occasionally glancing at Caleb. When she finished, Doctor was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made Maya's heart skip a beat. "You know, I have noticed some anomalies in Caleb's recent tests. Small things that I attributed to measurement error or muscle spasms. But if what you're describing is accurate, if Doctor himself examined Caleb and saw potential for recovery, then we need to take a much closer look." "You know who is?" Maya asked. "Every neurologist knows who is," Doctor said with a slight smile. "He's a legend in our field. If he thinks there's hope for Caleb, then there's definitely something worth investigating. I'm just wondering why he's involved. I thought he had retired from practice." Maya pulled out the business card. "He gave me this and said he would help us for free. I don't understand why." Doctor looked at the card, then at Maya. "Lost his wife to a condition he couldn't cure. From what I heard, it changed him. Some say he's been living quietly, occasionally helping people he encounters who need it. If he's offered to help Caleb, I would strongly suggest you take him up on it. You won't find better care anywhere in the world." The rest of the appointment passed in a blur. Doctor examined Caleb more thoroughly than usual, checking for responses, asking about sensations, making notes. He confirmed that there were indeed some signs that had been previously overlooked or misinterpreted. He scheduled more comprehensive tests and told Maya that he would be happy to coordinate with Doctor if she decided to pursue that option. When they left the hospital an hour later, the sun was higher in the sky, and the day felt different as 3 days passed before Maya found the courage to call the number on the card. Those 3 days were filled with research, sleepless nights, and countless conversations with herself about whether this was real or just another cruel trick of fate. She read everything she could find about his medical innovations, about his legendary career, and about the tragic loss that had driven him from the spotlight. Every article confirmed what Doctor had said. If thought he could help, then there was genuine reason for hope. It was Thursday evening when Maya finally picked up her phone. Caleb was asleep in his room, exhausted from physical therapy at school. Maya sat at their small kitchen table, the business card in front of her, her phone in her hand. She had dialed the number 3 times already, only to hang up before it could ring. Fear held her back. Fear of rejection, fear of disappointment, fear of allowing herself to believe in something that might crumble to dust. But then she thought about Caleb's face when it made him feel that spark in his leg. She thought about the hope that had lit up his eyes, the way he had talked about nothing else for 3 days straight, asking when they would see the doctor again. She thought about her son's dreams of playing basketball, of running in the park, of doing all the things that other boys his age took for granted. Maya pressed the call button and held the phone to her ear. Her heart hammered in her chest as it rang once, twice, 3 times. She was about to hang up when a familiar voice answered. Hello, this is. Maya's throat went dry. Hi, this is Maya Johnson. We met at the hospital on Monday. You examined my son Caleb. Maya, yes, I'm so glad you called, said, and she could hear genuine warmth in his voice. I've been hopping to hear from you. How is Caleb? He's good. He's been talking about you nonstop, Maya admitted. Doctor confirmed what you said. He found some signs that we need to investigate further. That's excellent news, said. Is a good doctor. What did he recommend? Maya hesitated. More tests, more comprehensive scans, but our insurance won't cover most of it, and I can't afford to pay out of pocket. I work at a grocery store during the day and clean offices at night. I'm barely keeping us afloat as it is. There was a pause on the other end of the line. When spoke again, his voice was gentle but firm. Maya, I told you I would help, and I meant it. I want to run a full diagnostic workup on Caleb. MRI, CT scans, nerve conduction studies, everything we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. And I don't want you to worry about the cost. But why? Maya's voice cracked. Why would you do this for us? You don't know us. We're nobody to you. It was quiet for a long moment. Maya could hear him breathing on the other end of the line as if he was choosing his words carefully. Let me tell you a story, he finally said. 5 years ago, my wife Sarah started showing symptoms of a rare neurological condition. I'm one of the best neurologists in the world, and I couldn't save her. I tried everything, spent every resource I had, called in every favor, used every technique I knew. Nothing worked. I watched her deteriorate day by day, and I was powerless to stop it. Maya felt tears forming in her eyes as she listened. After she died, I realized something, continued. All my success, all my money, all my reputation meant nothing because I couldn't help the one person who mattered most to me. I stepped away from my practice, from the spotlight, from everything. I gave away most of my money to research foundations. I thought maybe if I couldn't save Sarah, at least I could help fund research that might save others. I'm so sorry, Maya whispered. Thank you, said softly. But here's what I learned. For the last 5 years, I've been living quietly, occasionally using my skills to help people I encounter who need it. People who slip through the cracks of our healthcare system, people who have the will to fight but not the resources. I help them because I can, and because it helps me remember why I became a doctor in the first place. Not for the fame or the money, but to heal people. Maya wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. We really aren't a charity case, though. I work hard. I provide for my son. I know you do, said warmly. I could tell from the moment I saw you. The way you held yourself, the way you protected Caleb, the strength in your eyes. You're a fighter, Maya, but even fighters need help sometimes. Let me be clear, this isn't charity. This is medicine. Your son has a condition that I might be able to treat. Letting me help him isn't accepting a handout. It's giving me the opportunity to do what I was meant to do. Maya felt something shift inside her chest. The pride that had kept her from accepting help for so long began to soften. What would the treatment involve? First, we need complete diagnostic imaging, explained, his voice taking on a professional tone. I want to see exactly what's happening with Caleb's spinal cord and nerves. Then, depending on what we find, we might consider a combination of intensive physical therapy, possible surgical intervention to remove scar tissue or address compression, and maybe some experimental nerve stimulation techniques I've been developing. Experimental, Maya's concern returned. I understand your worry, said quickly. But these techniques have shown promise in early trials. They're not dangerous, and they're not untested on humans. I've had success with several patients already, but I want to be completely transparent with you about every step of the process. Nothing happens without your full understanding and consent. Maya took a deep breath. Okay, what do we do next? I have a private facility where I conduct my research and treat special cases, said. It's about an hour outside the city. Can you bring Caleb there this Saturday? I'll have everything set up for a complete evaluation. The appointment will probably take most of the day, so bring snacks, books, whatever helps Caleb stay comfortable. Saturday works, Maya said, feeling a mixture of excitement and terror. What time? Let's say 9 in the morning. I'll text you the address. And Maya, one more thing. I work with a small team of specialists I trust completely. They're all volunteers, people who believe in what we're doing. They'll treat Caleb with the same care and respect you'd expect from any top medical facility. After they said goodbye, Maya sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at her phone. She felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, about to jump into unknown waters. Everything could change, or nothing might change at all. But at least she would know she had tried everything possible. Saturday morning arrived with clear skies and cool weather. Maya woke Caleb early, helped him through his morning routine, and prepared his favorite breakfast, pancakes with strawberries. While he ate, she explained where they were going. "The doctor from the hospital wants to run some tests," she said, keeping her tone casual even though her stomach was in knots. "It's going to be a long day, but I'll be with you the whole time." "Is he going to make my legs work again?" Caleb asked, his eyes wide and hopeful. Maya's heart clenched. "Baby, I don't know. He's going to try to figure out if that's possible. But I need you to understand that we can't be sure what will happen. We have to be patient and let the doctors do their work." "But there's a chance, right?" Caleb pressed. "There's a chance I could walk again." Maya knelt beside his wheelchair and took his hands in hers. "There's a chance, yes. But Caleb, I need you to know that even if you never walk again, you're still perfect to me. You're still strong and brave and amazing. Whether you're in this wheelchair or not doesn't change who you are." Caleb nodded solemnly. "I know, Mama, but I really want to walk again. I want to play basketball like the other kids. I want to run with you in the park like we used to." Maya kissed his forehead, fighting back tears. "I know, baby, I want that for you too." They took it to the address had sent. The facility was located in a quiet area outside the city, surrounded by trees and gardens. It looked more like a large private home than a medical center. The building was modern but warm, with large windows and natural wood siding. There was a circular driveway leading to the main entrance, where was waiting for them. He was dressed more professionally today, in dark slacks and a crisp button-down shirt, though he still had an approachable quality about him. He smiled as they approached and bent down to greet Caleb directly. "Good morning, Caleb. Ready for an adventure today?" Caleb grinned. "You're going to fix my legs, right?" His expression became serious but kind. "I'm going to do my absolute best to help you, that's a promise, but we need to figure out exactly what's going on first. Are you okay with that?" "I'm ready," Caleb said with determination that made Maya's heart swell with pride. Led them inside. The interior was nothing like a traditional hospital. Instead of sterile white walls and fluorescent lights, there were warm colors, comfortable furniture, and artwork on the walls. It felt more like an upscale home than a medical facility. But Maya noticed the subtle signs of advanced technology: discreet monitoring equipment, specialized lighting, doorways wide enough for wheelchairs and medical equipment. "Welcome to Horizon House," said. "This is where I conduct my private practice now. It's designed to be as comfortable as possible for patients and their families. Let me introduce you to the team." They entered a large, open room that had been set up as a combination consultation space and diagnostic center. 3 people were waiting there, all dressed in casual professional attire rather than traditional medical scrubs. "This is Dr. Jennifer Reeves, my colleague in neurological rehabilitation," said, gesturing to a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a warm smile. "She's been developing some of the therapy protocols we'll potentially use." "Pleased to meet you both," Dr. Reeves said, shaking Maya's hand and then Caleb's. "I've heard good things about you, Caleb. Tells me you're quite brave." "This is Dr. James, our specialist in spinal imaging and diagnostics," continued, introducing a younger man with glasses and an easy manner. "And this is Sarah Bate Martinez, our physical therapist and rehabilitation coordinator," finished, introducing an energetic woman with athletic build and a bright smile. "We're going to take good care of you today," Sarah Bates said to Caleb, "and I promise we'll make it as fun as possible." For the next hour, the team explained exactly what would happen during the evaluation. They showed Caleb the MRI machine, let him see the other equipment, and answered all his questions with patience and respect. Maya appreciated that they treated her son like an intelligent person capable of understanding his own medical care, rather than talking over him or around him. "We're going to start with the MRI," Doctor explained. "It's going to be loud, kind of like being inside a tunnel with a rock concert happening around you. But we have headphones with music, and you can pick whatever you want to listen to." "Can I listen to superhero movie soundtracks?" Caleb asked. "Absolutely," Doctor grinned. "I actually have a great playlist of those." The MRI took about 45 minutes. Maya sat in the observation room watching through a window as the massive machine worked. She could see Caleb lying still, the headphones over his ears, his small body dwarfed by the equipment. "He's doing great," said quietly. "Some kids get scared, but he's handling it like a champ." He's been through a lot, Maya said. After the accident, he spent weeks in the hospital. He's used to medical procedures now. Tell me about the accident, said gently, if you're comfortable sharing. Maya was quiet for a moment, gathering herself. It still hurt to talk about it, even after 3 years. We were driving home from his grandmother's house. It was raining, visibility was poor. A truck ran a red light and hit us on Caleb's side of the car. I had minor injuries, just cuts and bruises, but Caleb took the full impact. His spine was damaged, and by the time the ambulance got us to the hospital, the doctors said the damage was permanent. I'm so sorry, said softly, and Caleb's father. Maya's jaw tightened. He left 6 months after the accident, said he couldn't handle it, couldn't deal with a disabled kid and all the medical bills and the stress. Just packed his bags one day and left. I haven't heard from him since. Shook his head, his expression a mixture of sadness and anger. That makes you even more remarkable, Maya. Raising Caleb alone, working 2 jobs, staying strong for him. That takes incredible courage. I don't feel courageous most days, Maya admitted. I feel tired and scared and like I'm failing him, like I should be able to do more, be more, give him more. You're giving him everything that matters, said firmly. Love, dedication, stability, those things are worth more than any amount of money. The MRI finished, and Caleb was brought back to the main room, where Sarah Bate had set up various physical tests and exercises. For the next 2 hours, they put Caleb through a comprehensive evaluation of his muscle responses, nerve function, and mobility. They tested sensation at hundreds of points along his legs, measured his muscle tone, evaluated his reflexes. Maya watched in amazement as the team worked. They were professional but playful, turning the tests into games, celebrating small victories, keeping Caleb engaged and motivated. When he got tired or frustrated, they took breaks, let him rest, brought him snacks and juice. Around 1 in the afternoon, they broke for lunch, had arranged for pizza, Caleb's favorite food, and they all ate together in a comfortable lounge area. The atmosphere was relaxed, almost like a family gathering rather than a medical consultation. So what do you think so far? Maya asked quietly while Caleb was engrossed in conversation with Sarah Bate about superheroes. I think, said carefully, that there's definitely something to work with here. The MRI showed some encouraging signs. There's scar tissue, yes, but the spinal cord itself isn't completely severed. There are intact pathways that we might be able to stimulate and strengthen. The nerve tests confirm that Caleb has some residual nerve function that's been dormant or suppressed. Maya felt her breath catch. So you think you can help him? I think there's a real possibility we can help him regain some function, said. I can't promise he'll walk perfectly or that recovery will be quick, but I believe we can make significant improvements to his quality of life and possibly help him regain mobility. Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks before she could stop them. 3 years of suppressed hope, of careful management of expectations, of protecting herself and Caleb from disappointment suddenly crashed over her. Handed her a tissue and waited patiently while she composed herself. I'm sorry, Maya said, wiping her eyes. I just never thought I'd hear anyone say that. Every doctor we've seen has said the same thing, permanent damage, learn to adapt, focus on wheelchair skills. No one has ever said there was hope. Sometimes hope is the most powerful medicine, said gently. And sometimes the medical community gives up too soon, especially on patients who can't afford expensive treatments or experimental procedures. After lunch, the team gathered to discuss their findings. They invited both Maya and Caleb to be part of the conversation, using simple language and visual aids to explain what they had discovered. Doctor pulled up the MRI images on a large screen. See this area here? He pointed to a section of Caleb's spine. This is where the initial injury occurred. There's scar tissue, which is normal after trauma. But look at these pathways here and here. They're compressed and damaged, but they're not severed. That means there's potential for recovery if we can reduce the scar tissue and stimulate those pathways. What would that involve? Maya asked, her hand finding Caleb's and squeezing gently. Took over the explanation. We would start with an intensive physical therapy program, working with Sarah Bate 3 times a week. The goal would be to begin building strength and teaching Caleb's body to use whatever nerve function remains. Simultaneously, we'd use electrical stimulation therapy to try to wake up those dormant pathways. Like a pacemaker? Caleb asked, his eyes wide. Sort of, smiled. But for your nerves instead of your heart. We'd implant a small device that would send tiny electrical signals to your spinal cord, helping those pathways remember how to work. Would it hurt? Caleb's voice was small. The implantation is a surgery, so you'd be asleep, explained gently. Afterward, you might be sore for a few days like you exercised really hard, but the device itself won't hurt. You probably won't even feel knelt down beside Caleb's wheelchair, his expression serious but kind. Recovery would take time, probably months or even longer. We'd start with small goals, feeling more sensation in your legs, maybe being able to wiggle your toes, then building up to supporting your own weight with braces and assistance. Walking independently would be the ultimate goal, but we'd take it one step at a time. But there's a chance, Caleb persisted, his young voice filled with desperate hope. There's definitely a chance, confirmed. A real, genuine chance, but you'd have to work very hard. Physical therapy is tough. There will be days when you're tired and frustrated and want to give up. You'll need to be strong and determined. Can you do that? Caleb sat up in his wheelchair, his thin shoulders squared with determination. I can do it. I'll work as hard as I need to. I want to walk again, doctor. I want it more than anything. Maya felt her heart might burst with pride and fear all at once. She wanted this for her son more than she had ever wanted anything in her life. But the thought of him going through surgery, enduring months of difficult therapy, and possibly facing disappointment at the end of it all terrified her. What about the risks? Maya asked, forcing herself to think practically despite the emotion overwhelming her. Surgery always has risks. What could go wrong? Dr. Reeves stepped forward, her professional demeanor reassuring. You're right to ask, Maya. Any surgical procedure carries risks: infection, bleeding, anesthesia complications. In this specific case, there's also a small risk that the implantation could cause additional damage or that Caleb's body might reject the device. However, the risks are minimal, and has performed this procedure successfully many times. What's the success rate? Maya pressed. Answered honestly. In cases similar to Caleb's, where there's partial nerve preservation and the patient is young with good overall health, we've seen about a 70% success rate in achieving significant functional improvement. That means some patients regain the ability to stand and walk with assistance, others achieve independent walking, and some see improvement in sensation and muscle control even if full walking isn't achieved. And the other 30%? Maya asked quietly. Some see minimal improvement despite our best efforts, admitted. The body doesn't always respond the way we hope, but even in those cases, patients typically don't lose any existing function. We're trying to add capability, not risk what's already there. Maya looked at Caleb, studying his eager face, seeing the hope blazing in his eyes. She thought about the 3 years he had spent in that wheelchair, the birthday parties where he watched other kids run and play, the school events where he needed special accommodations, the simple daily challenges that wore away at his spirit little by little. She thought about his father leaving, about the lonely nights when she heard Caleb crying softly in his room, about the weight of impossible dreams they both carried. How much time do we have to decide? Maya asked. Take a few days to think about it, said. Discuss it together. I can provide you with detailed information about the procedure, recovery timeline, everything you need to make an informed decision. But Maya, I want you to know something. I believe in this. I wouldn't offer this treatment if I didn't genuinely think we could help Caleb, and I'm prepared to commit whatever time and resources are necessary to see this through. They spent another hour reviewing information, asking questions, and discussing logistics. Sarah Bates showed them videos of other patients who had similar treatments, children and young adults who had regained mobility after years of paralysis. Maya watched these videos with tears streaming down her face, seeing the joy on those patients' faces as they took their first steps, seeing the relief and happiness in their parents' eyes. As the afternoon drew to a close, walked them to the entrance. The sun was beginning to set, casting golden light across the gardens surrounding the facility. Maya noticed for the first time how beautiful and peaceful the place was, like a sanctuary removed from the harsh realities of the world. Thank you for today, Maya said, shaking his hand. For everything, for the tests, for your time, for giving us hope. Thank you for trusting me, replied. I know this isn't easy, putting your faith in someone you barely know, but I promise you I won't let you down. Caleb, who had been quiet during the goodbye, suddenly spoke up. Doctor, can I ask you something? Of course, Caleb, anything. Why do you really want to help us? Mama said you're famous and rich and you could be doing anything. Why us? Was quiet for a moment, Then he sat down on a nearby bench, bringing himself to Caleb's eye level. That's a very smart question. The truth is, when I lost my wife, I lost my way for a while. I forgot why I became a doctor in the first place. I forgot that medicine isn't about money or fame, it's about helping people who are suffering. When I saw you and your mother in that hospital, when I saw how she protected you and how brave you were, something clicked inside me. I remembered. Remembered what? Caleb asked. Remembered that every person deserves a chance to live their best life, regardless of who they are or what they can afford. Remembered that I have skills and resources that can change lives, and it's my responsibility to use them. You reminded me of why I spent all those years studying and training. It wasn't to become famous or rich. It was to help kids like you. Caleb nodded solemnly, then surprised everyone by reaching out and hugging. Thank you for remembering, he said simply. The drive home was quiet. Caleb dozed off in his car seat, exhausted from the long day of testing. Maya stared out the window, watching the city lights blur past, her mind spinning with everything she had learned. The possibility of Caleb walking again seemed too good to be true, yet the medical evidence was right there. One of the world's leading neurologists believed her son could be helped. When they arrived home, Maya carried Caleb inside, surprised at how light he felt, how small and fragile despite his brave heart. She tucked him into bed, kissing his forehead and whispering that she loved him. He mumbled something about walking in his sleep, already dreaming of a future where his legs worked again. Maya went to her own small bedroom and sat on the edge of her bed, pulling out the folder of information had given her. She read through every page, studying the diagrams, reviewing the procedure details, analyzing the risks and benefits. She read testimonials from other patients and families who had been through the treatment. She looked at success rates and timelines and rehabilitation protocols. The more she read, the more real it became. This wasn't a fantasy or a scam. This was legitimate medical treatment offered by a legitimate expert. The only catch was that it seemed too generous, too good. People didn't just give away expensive medical care for free. There had to be something she was missing. Maya picked up her phone and called her mother, the one person who had supported her through everything since the accident. "Mama, something happened today," she began, and then told the whole story. The encounter at the hospital, the research she had done on, the comprehensive evaluation at Horizon House, and the treatment plan that had been proposed. Her mother listened without interrupting, a skill she had perfected over the years. When Maya finished, there was a long pause before her mother spoke. "Baby girl, this sounds like an answer to all those prayers we've been saying, but I hear the doubt in your voice. What's holding you back?" "I'm scared, Mama," Maya admitted, her voice breaking. "I'm scared to hope, scared to believe that things could actually get better. What if we go through all of this and it doesn't work? What if Caleb's heart gets broken? What if this doctor is running some kind of experiment and we're just test subjects?" "Do you believe that?" her mother asked gently. "In your gut, do you really think this man is trying to hurt you?" Maya thought about his kind eyes, his gentle manner with Caleb, the obvious respect his team had for him. She thought about the research she had done, the articles about his legendary career and his philanthropic work after his wife's death. She thought about the way he had explained everything clearly and honestly, never making promises he couldn't keep. "No," Maya said finally. "I don't think he's trying to hurt us. I think he genuinely wants to help. But Mama, why us? Out of all the people in the world who need help, why did he choose to help a random black woman and her son that he met in an elevator?" Her mother was quiet for a moment. "Maybe it wasn't random, baby. Maybe God put you in that elevator at exactly the right time. Maybe this is part of a bigger plan that we don't understand yet. And maybe, just maybe, you need to stop questioning blessings and start accepting them." "It feels too good to be true," Maya whispered. "The best things in life often do," her mother replied. "But that doesn't make them any less real. You've been strong for so long, carried so much on your own. Maybe it's time to let someone help carry the load. Maybe it's time to take a leap of faith." After hanging up with her mother, Maya sat in the quiet of her room for a long time. She thought about faith and fear, about hope and heartbreak, about the weight of decisions that could change everything. She thought about Caleb sleeping peacefully down the hall, dreaming of running and playing and living a life beyond the limitations of his wheelchair. She thought about the hidden billionaire who had stepped out of the shadows to offer them a miracle. She thought about his wife, the woman he couldn't save, and wondered if helping Caleb was his way of honoring her memory, of finding meaning in his loss. Finally, as the clock struck midnight, Maya made her decision. She would say yes. They would accept help. Whatever risks came with it, whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Because the chance, however slim, was worth taking. The possibility of seeing her son walk again was worth any amount of fear or uncertainty. She pulled out her phone and sent a text. "We're in. When can we start?" The response came back within minutes despite the late hour. "I'll call you in the morning to discuss the timeline. Thank you for trusting me, Maya. You won't regret this." Maya set her phone down and climbed into bed, feeling a strange mixture of terror and excitement coursing through her veins. Sleep didn't come easily that night. She lay awake thinking about the journey ahead, about the surgery and the therapy and the long road to recovery. She thought about how their lives were about to change, hopefully for the better, but change nonetheless. The next morning, true to his word, called. "Good morning, Maya. I'm glad you decided to move forward. Let's talk about the timeline." They spent an hour on the phone discussing details. The surgery would be scheduled for 3 weeks from now, giving them time to complete additional preparatory tests and for Caleb to be mentally ready. In the meantime, Sarah Bate would begin working with Caleb twice a week to strengthen his upper body and core muscles, preparing his body for the work ahead. "I want to be completely transparent about costs," said. "The surgery, the device, the hospital stay, all the physical therapy, everything will be covered. I don't want you worrying about money while Caleb is in recovery. Your only job is to support him and help him stay motivated." "I still don't understand how you can afford to do this," Maya said honestly. "Even for someone wealthy, this must cost hundreds of thousands of dollars." Chuckled softly. "Maya, before I stepped away from public practice, I was earning more in a year than most people earn in a lifetime. I've invested wisely, and I live simply now. The money I'm spending on Caleb's treatment is a fraction of what I used to spend on things that didn't matter, fancy cars and expensive dinners and meaningless status symbols. This matters. Helping your son matters. That's where I choose to invest my resources now." "Will you take a payment plan?" Maya asked. "Maybe I could pay you back over time, even if it's just a little bit each month. I don't want to feel like we're taking charity." "Maya, listen to me," said firmly but kindly. "This isn't charity, this is medicine. If you want to pay me back, then pay it forward someday. When you're in a position to help someone else, do it. That's all I ask." Over the next 3 weeks, Maya and Caleb fell into a new routine. Twice a week, they made the trip to Horizon House for therapy sessions with Sarah Bate. The physical therapist was energetic and encouraging, pushing Caleb to work hard while keeping the sessions fun and engaging. She worked on his core strength, his arm muscles, his balance and coordination. "Strong upper body will make everything easier during recovery," Sarah Bate explained. "When Caleb starts putting weight on his legs again, he'll need good core stability and arm strength to support himself." Maya watched these sessions with admiration for both the therapist and her son. Caleb threw himself into the work with determination that amazed her. He didn't complain when exercises got difficult. He didn't give up when he got tired. He kept pushing, kept trying, kept believing that all of this would lead to walking again. Dr. Reeves also spent time with Caleb during these weeks, preparing him mentally for what was ahead. She explained the surgery in age-appropriate terms, talked about what recovery would be like, and helped him develop realistic expectations. She taught him visualization techniques, having him imagine himself walking, feeling his legs moving, taking steps. "The mind is a powerful tool in recovery," Dr. Reeves told Maya during one session. "If Caleb can visualize success, if he can believe in his ability to walk again, his body is more likely to respond to treatment." Stopped by several of the therapy sessions, always taking time to talk with Caleb to encourage him, to answer his endless questions. Maya noticed that he never rushed these interactions, never made Caleb feel like an interruption or an obligation. He gave them his full attention, as if they were the only patients in the world. During one visit, while Caleb was resting between exercises, pulled Maya aside. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "This has to be stressful for you." "I'm managing," Maya said, though the truth was she felt like she was barely holding it together. Between work, taking care of Caleb, the therapy sessions, and the constant worry about the upcoming surgery, she was exhausted. She had been calling in sick to her night job more often, which meant less money coming in, which added financial stress to everything else. "Are you working both jobs still?" asked, his brow furrowed with concern. Maya nodded. "I have to. Bills don't stop just because life gets complicated." Was quiet for a moment, then said, "I have a proposal. I'd like to hire you to work here at Horizon House." We need someone to help with administrative tasks, coordinating patient schedules, managing supplies. It's not glamorous work, but it pays well, and it would allow you to be close to Caleb during his recovery. Plus, the hours are flexible and reasonable, nothing like the schedule you're keeping now. Maya stared at him. You're offering me a job. A legitimate job doing work we actually need done, confirmed. I'm not inventing a position just to help you. We really do need the help. Sarah Bate has been handling a lot of the administrative work on top of her therapy duties, and it's too much for one person. You'd be doing us a favor. I don't have experience in medical administration, Maya protested, though part of her desperately wanted to say yes. You managed a household on a tight budget while working 2 jobs and caring for a child with complex medical needs, pointed out. That requires more organizational skills and problem-solving ability than most administrative positions, and will train you on anything specific you need to know. Maya felt tears welling up. Why do you keep doing this, helping us, going above and beyond? Smiled sadly. Because I wish someone had done the same for me and Sarah when Maya accepted the job, giving 2 weeks' notice at both her current positions. The relief of working reasonable hours in a supportive environment was immediate. The staff at Horizon House welcomed her warmly, training her patiently, and treating her like a valued colleague rather than someone receiving charity. The pay was more than she had been making at both her previous jobs combined, and for the first time in 3 years, Maya felt like she could breathe financially. The night before Caleb's surgery, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet sounds of the house, her mind racing with worry. What if something went wrong? What if the anesthesia didn't work properly? What if Caleb's body rejected the device? What if they had come this far only to face devastating disappointment? Around 2 in the morning, unable to bear the anxiety alone any longer, Maya got up and checked on Caleb. She found him awake too, sitting up in bed with his casting soft shadows across his face. Can't sleep either? Maya asked, sitting on the edge of his bed. Caleb shook his head. I'm scared, Mama. What if it doesn't work? What if I go through all of this and I still can't walk? Maya pulled him close, holding him tight. Then we'll deal with it together just like we always have. Baby, you need to understand something. Whether this surgery works or not, whether you ever walk again or not, you are enough exactly as you are. You're brave and smart and kind, and those things matter more than whether your legs work. But I want to walk, Caleb whispered, his voice muffled against her shoulder. I want it so bad it hurts. I know, Maya said, stroking his hair. And we're going to do everything we can to make that happen, but if it doesn't, we'll still be okay. We've made it this far, haven't we? Through the accident and your father leaving and all the hard times, we've survived all of that. We can survive anything. Doctor thinks it will work, Caleb said hopefully. He said he believes in me. And I believe in you too, Maya affirmed. No matter what happens tomorrow, I'm proud of you. You've been so brave through all of this. They sat together in the quiet darkness for a long time, mother and son, drawing strength from each other the way they had countless times before. Eventually, Caleb grew drowsy and lay back down. Maya stayed with him, holding his hand until his breathing evened out into sleep. The next morning dawned clear and bright. Maya helped Caleb through his pre-surgery preparations, trying to keep her hands from shaking as she dressed him in the hospital gowns team had provided. They arrived at Horizon House at 6 in the morning, where the surgical team was already preparing. Met them in the pre-op room, dressed in surgical scrubs, but with the same kind expression Maya had come to trust. He knelt beside Caleb's wheelchair, taking the boy's hand in his. Ready to do this, champ? Asked. Caleb nodded, though Maya could see the fear in his eyes. Will you be with me the whole time? Every single second, promised. I'll be right there making sure everything goes perfectly, and when you wake up, your mom will be waiting for you. And then I'll be able to walk, Caleb asked. Chose his words carefully. The surgery is just the first step. It will take time and lots of hard work, but today we're giving your body the best possible chance to heal and grow stronger. The anesthesiologist, a gentle woman named Doctor, explained how the anesthesia would work. She let Caleb choose which flavor of gas he wanted to breathe, offered him stickers, treated him with the kind of respect and care that made Maya grateful all over again for his team. When it was time to take Caleb to the operating room, Maya felt her composure cracking. She hugged her son tightly, breathing in his familiar scent, memorizing the feel of his small arms around her neck. I love you so much, she whispered, more than anything in the world. I love you too, Mama, Caleb said. Don't worry, doctor is going to fix me. Maya watched as they wheeled him away, her vision blurred with tears, paused at the doorway, looking back at her. He's going to be fine, he said with quiet confidence. I promise you I'll take care of him. The surgery was supposed to take 4 hours. Maya spent that time in the family waiting room, unable to sit still. She paced, she prayed, she called her mother to report that Caleb was in surgery. Dr. Reeves stopped by periodically with updates. Surgery proceeding smoothly, device placement going well, Caleb's vitals strong. Around the 3-hour mark, himself came out, still in surgical attire but with his mask pulled down. Maya jumped to her feet, her heart pounding. The surgery went perfectly, said, and Maya felt her knees nearly buckle with relief. We were able to place the device exactly where we needed it, and we found even more viable nerve pathways than the MRI had shown. This is very good news, Maya, very good. Maya covered her face with her hands, overwhelmed with gratitude and relief. Thank you, she managed to say through her tears. Thank you so much. He'll be in recovery for about an hour and then you can see him, said gently. He did great. He's a fighter, that son of yours. When Maya was finally allowed into the recovery room, Caleb was just starting to wake up. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then finding her face. Mama, he mumbled groggily. I'm here, baby, Maya said, taking his hand carefully, mindful of all the IV lines and monitors. You did so good. The surgery is all done. My legs, Caleb slurred, still foggy from anesthesia. Can I walk now? Not yet, sweetheart, Maya said gently. Remember, the surgery is just the beginning. Now comes the hard part, recovery and therapy. Over the next few days, Caleb stayed at Horizon House for monitoring and initial recovery. The facility had comfortable patient rooms that felt more like hotel suites than hospital rooms. Maya stayed with him the entire time, sleeping in a chair that converted to a bed, never leaving his side. Visited multiple times each day, checking Caleb's incision site, monitoring the device function, ensuring everything was healing properly. He brought Caleb books and puzzles, spent time just talking with him about superheroes and space, and all the things 12-year-old boys cared about. He treated Caleb not as a patient, but as a person with dignity and respect. On the 3rd day after surgery, Dr. Reeves came in with an electronic tablet. Caleb, I want to show you something cool, she said, pulling up an interface that displayed readings from his spinal device. See these signals? These are messages traveling through your nervous system. The device is already starting to communicate with your nerves, waking them up, reminding them how to work. Caleb stared at the screen in fascination. That's inside me. Those signals are in my body right now. Exactly, Dr. Reeves confirmed. And over the next few weeks, we'll gradually increase the strength of those signals, training your nerves to respond more and more. But you'll need to do your part too. The therapy is going to be challenging. I'm ready, Caleb said with determination. When can we start? Let's give you another week to heal from the surgery, Dr. Reeves said. Then Sarah Bate will ease you into gentle exercises. We won't push too hard too fast. Recovery is a marathon, not a sprint. Maya watched these interactions with a mixture of hope and trepidation. She wanted so badly to believe that this would work, that her son would walk again. But she had learned to protect her heart, to guard against disappointment. She told herself that even if Caleb didn't achieve full mobility, the surgery would have been worth it if it gave him any improvement at all. A week later, they returned to Horizon House for the first therapy session since surgery. Sarah Bate had set up a special room with parallel bars, mats, mirrors, and all sorts of equipment designed for rehabilitation. Caleb looked at it all with wide eyes. We're going to start very, very slowly, Sarah Bate explained. Today, we're just going to work on you bearing some weight on your legs while I support you. No expectations of movement yet. We're just waking your body up. She positioned Caleb between the parallel bars, with Maya and another therapist supporting him on either side. Slowly, carefully, they helped him shift weight onto his legs. Caleb's face contorted with concentration and effort. What do you feel? Sarah Bate asked. It's weird, Caleb said. Like my legs are there but not there. I can feel pressure but it's distant, like it's happening to someone else. That's normal, Sarah Bate assured him. Your brain needs time to relearn how to interpret signals from your legs. The more we practice, the clearer those signals will become. They worked for 30 minutes before Caleb was exhausted. It seemed like so little, just standing supported between bars, not even taking steps. But Maya could see it was monumental for her son. He was bearing weight on his legs for the first time in 3 years. The therapy sessions became routine over the following weeks. 3 times a week they returned to Horizon House, where Sarah Bate pushed Caleb to work harder while never pushing too far. Gradually, the sessions progressed. First, Caleb learned to support more of his own weight. Then, with heavy bracing and maximum assistance, he began to shift his weight from leg to leg. Then came the day he took his first assisted step, a movement that was more of a controlled fall than actual walking, but it was movement nonetheless. Maya cried during that session, watching her son's face light up with joy as he realized his leg had moved forward. It was a tiny victory, but it felt enormous. Stopped by during one of these sessions, watching from the observation area. When the session ended, he approached with a smile. "He's doing remarkably well, better than I even hoped at this stage." "Really?" Maya asked, hardly daring to believe it. "Really," confirmed. "The device is functioning perfectly, his nerves are responding to stimulation, and his determination is incredible. I've seen adult patients with similar injuries who don't work half as hard as Caleb does." "He wants this so badly," Maya said. "Sometimes I worry he wants it too much. What if he sets himself up for heartbreak?" Put a hand on her shoulder. "Hope isn't something to be afraid of, Maya. Even if the outcome isn't everything we wish for, the journey itself has value. Caleb is stronger now than he was before surgery. He's building muscle, improving his health, learning discipline and perseverance. Those things matter regardless of whether he walks independently or not." As weeks turned into months, the progress became more visible. Caleb graduated from needing maximum assistance to moderate assistance. He learned to use a walker, taking slow, deliberate steps while therapists stood ready to catch him if he fell. His leg muscles, atrophied from 3 years of disuse, began to rebuild. The sensations in his legs grew stronger and clearer. There were setbacks too. Days when Caleb was too tired to make progress, when frustration overwhelmed him, when he cried because the work was so hard and the results seemed so slow. Maya learned to sit with him during these difficult moments, to validate his feelings while encouraging him to keep going. Was there for these moments too. He never made empty promises, never told Caleb it would be easy. Instead, he shared stories of other patients who had struggled, who had faced setbacks, but who had ultimately succeeded through persistence. He treated Caleb's emotions with respect, acknowledging that what he was going through was genuinely difficult. 4 months after surgery, Caleb took his first unassisted steps. It happened during a regular therapy session. Sarah Bate had been working with him on his walker, gradually reducing how much weight she allowed him to put on it. Suddenly, without planning it, Caleb let go of the walker entirely and took 3 wobbling steps forward before Sarah Bate caught him. The room erupted in cheers. The therapists, Maya, even other patients and staff who had heard the commotion, everyone celebrated. Caleb's face glowed with pride and disbelief. "I did it," he kept saying. "Mama, did you see? I walked by myself." Maya was laughing and crying at the same time, holding her son's face in her hands, kissing his forehead. "You did it, baby. You really did it." Appeared in the doorway, having been called by one of the staff members. His eyes were bright with emotion as he watched the celebration. When things calmed down, he approached Caleb. "I'm so proud of you," he said simply. "You've worked harder than anyone should have to work. You've earned this." From that day forward, progress accelerated. Caleb's confidence grew with each session. He took more steps, walked longer distances, needed less assistance. His gait was far from perfect, his steps were slow and careful, and he tired easily. But he was walking. He was actually walking. 6 months after surgery, Caleb walked into Horizon House for his therapy session without his wheelchair. He used a cane and walked slowly, with Maya close beside him ready to help if needed. But he walked through those doors on his own 2 feet, and the entire staff stopped what they were doing to watch and applaud. Sarah Bate had tears in her eyes. "You've come so far," she said, hugging Caleb. "I am so proud of you." That evening after the therapy session, invited Maya and Caleb to his private office at Horizon House. It was a comfortable space with large windows overlooking the gardens, filled with books and medical journals and personal photographs. One photo caught Maya's attention, with a beautiful woman, both of them smiling radiantly. His wife Sarah, Maya realized, the woman he couldn't save. "I wanted to talk to you both about something," said, gesturing for them to sit. Caleb, your progress has been extraordinary. You've exceeded every expectation. But I think we're approaching a point where you don't need intensive therapy anymore. You've relearned how to walk. Now it's about building endurance and strength, which you can do with regular physical therapy closer to home. Maya felt a strange mixture of emotions. She was proud of how far Caleb had come, but she had also grown attached to this place, to these people who had become like family. "So we're graduating?" she asked. "In a way, yes," said with a smile. "But that doesn't mean goodbye. We'll continue monitoring Caleb's progress, have regular follow-up appointments, make sure the device continues functioning properly. And Maya, your job here is as permanent as you want it to be. You've become an invaluable part of our team." "What about the wheelchair?" Caleb asked. "Can I get rid of it?" Shook his head gently. "I'd recommend keeping it, at least for now. There will be times when you're tired or when distances are too far to walk safely. The wheelchair is a tool, not a prison. Using it when you need it doesn't mean you've failed." Caleb nodded, understanding. "I just never thought I'd be able to walk again. I thought I'd be in that chair forever." "I know," said softly, "and I'm so glad we could prove that belief wrong. But Caleb, I want you to remember something important. You were never broken. Your value as a person was never diminished." Maya watched her son absorb these words, saw the understanding dawn in his eyes. Was right. Whether Caleb walked or used a wheelchair, he was still the same brave, determined, wonderful boy he had always been. The journey to recovery hadn't changed who he was. It had only revealed the strength that had always been there. A year after the surgery, Horizon House held a small celebration for Caleb's progress. The team gathered in the common room, where a cake was waiting with "Congratulations, Caleb" written in blue frosting. Other patients and their families were there too, people who had been inspired by Caleb's journey, who had watched him progress from wheelchair-bound to walking. Caleb stood at the front of the room, using only his cane for support, his legs steady beneath him. He had grown taller over the past year, his body stronger and healthier. His smile was radiant as he looked around at all the faces gathered to celebrate with him. "I want to say thank you," Caleb said, his voice clear and confident. "Thank you to Doctor for believing in me when nobody else did. Thank you to Sarah Bate for pushing me even when I wanted to give up. Thank you to Dr. Reeves and Doctor and everyone who helped me. And thank you to my mom for always being there, for working so hard, for never letting me stop believing." Maya wiped tears from her eyes as the room applauded, caught her eye and smiled, and in that moment Maya understood fully what he had told her at the beginning. This wasn't charity. This was medicine. This was what healing looked like when resources weren't a barrier, when expertise met compassion, when someone with means chose to use them for good. After the celebration, as guests began to leave, pulled Maya aside. "Can we talk privately for a moment?" They walked to his office and closed the door behind them. He seemed thoughtful, almost hesitant, which was unusual for him. "I want to tell you something I haven't shared with many people," he began. "When my wife Sarah was sick, toward the end, she made me promise something. She knew how much I loved medicine, how much of my identity was wrapped up in being a surgeon, in being successful and respected. She worried that losing her would break me." Maya listened quietly, sensing this was important. "She made me promise that I wouldn't let grief destroy me," continued. "She said that if I really wanted to honor her memory, I should use my gifts to help people who needed it most. Not the wealthy patients who could afford any treatment, but the ones who fell through the cracks. The ones whose insurance wouldn't cover experimental procedures, whose lack of resources meant they got second-rate care. She said that's where I could make the biggest difference." "That's a beautiful legacy," Maya said softly. "I tried to follow her wishes," said. "I stepped away from my practice, donated money to research, set up this facility, but I was going through the motions without really feeling it. I was helping people, but my heart wasn't in it. I was numb, just existing day to day." "What changed?" Maya asked. Met her eyes. "Meeting you and Caleb changed things. Something about that moment in the elevator, seeing you push that wheelchair with such determination, seeing the protective way you stood when I approached, seeing Caleb's hopeful face. It woke something up in me. For the first time since Sarah died, I felt that spark again, that sense of purpose that made me become a doctor in the first place." Maya felt tears forming again. "We helped you." "You did," said with emotion. "More than you know. Watching Caleb's recovery, seeing his determination, witnessing the bond between you two, it reminded me what matters. It reminded me that healing isn't just about fixing broken bodies. It's about restoring hope, rebuilding lives, creating possibilities where there seemed to be none." I thought we were the ones being helped, Maya said, her voice trembling. Healing goes both ways, replied. I've helped Caleb walk again, yes, but you and Caleb have helped me remember how to live again. You've reminded me why Sarah wanted me to keep going, what she saw in me that was worth preserving. There was a comfortable silence between them. Outside the window, they could see Caleb in the garden, walking slowly among the flowers with Sarah Bate beside him, both of them laughing at something. I want to expand what we're doing here, said after a moment. I've been treating individual patients as I encounter them, but there are thousands of children like Caleb who need help. I want to create a formal program, a foundation that can identify and assist children with neurological conditions whose families can't afford proper treatment. Maya's eyes widened. That's incredible. How can I help? I was hoping you'd ask, smiled. I'd like you to be part of it, not just administratively, but as a patient advocate. Your experience as Caleb's mother, navigating the healthcare system, fighting for your son, knowing what families need and how to help them. That perspective is invaluable. Will you help me build this? Maya felt overwhelmed by the enormity of what he was proposing. A year ago, she had been barely keeping her head above water, working 2 jobs, exhausted and hopeless. Now she was being asked to help create a foundation that could change countless lives. I don't know if I'm qualified, she said honestly. You're the most qualified person I know, countered. You've lived it, you understand it, and you have something no medical degree can teach, empathy born from experience. Will you do it? Maya thought about all the parents out there who were where she had been a year ago. Parents sitting in hospitals being told their children would never walk, never recover, never have normal lives. Parents working multiple jobs and still unable to afford the treatments their children needed. Parents losing hope because the system had failed them. Yes, Maya said firmly. I'll do it for Caleb and for every other child who needs a chance. Over the following months, the foundation took shape. They called it the Sarah Foundation for Pediatric Neurological Care, honoring his late wife and her wish that he use his gifts to help those most in need. Maya worked alongside and his team to develop criteria for patient selection, create application processes, establish relationships with hospitals and clinics, and build a network of medical professionals willing to donate their time and expertise. The foundation's first official patient was a 7-year-old girl named Emma from a small town 3 hours away. She had been paralyzed in a swimming accident, and her family's insurance had coverage for the specialized treatment she needed. When Maya met Emma's mother in the Horizon House waiting room, she saw her own reflection from a year ago. Exhausted, desperate, clinging to the edge of hope. I know how you're feeling, Maya told her gently. I know what it's like to watch your child suffer and feel powerless, but you're not powerless anymore. You're here and we're going to help. Emma's mother broke down crying, and Maya held her while she sobbed. It was cathartic for both of them, this recognition of shared experience, this understanding that only another mother who had walked this path could truly comprehend. As Maya had done with Caleb, Emma's mother stayed at Horizon House during her daughter's surgery and initial recovery. Maya visited them frequently, offering support, answering questions, sharing what she had learned during Caleb's journey. She became not just a staff member but a mentor, a guide, someone who understood in a way that medical professionals, however skilled and compassionate, could not fully grasp. Emma's recovery progressed well, though not as dramatically as Caleb's had. She regained some sensation and muscle control, but would likely always need mobility aids. Still, the improvement in her quality of life was significant, and her family was grateful beyond measure for the chance they had been given. More patients followed. A teenage boy who had been in a motorcycle accident, a toddler with a congenital spinal condition, a girl who had developed transverse myelitis after a viral infection. Each case was different, each family's story unique, but the thread of desperation and hope connected them all. The foundation grew, funded by wealth and supplemented by donations from others who heard about their work. They hired more staff, expanded the facility, established partnerships with hospitals across the region. What had started with a chance encounter in an elevator had become a movement, a beacon of hope for families who had nowhere else to turn. Caleb, now 13 and walking independently most of the time, became a volunteer at the foundation. He visited new patients, shared his story, offered encouragement from the unique perspective of someone who had been there. He was particularly good with younger children, able to make them laugh and forget their fears, able to show them that recovery was possible. You're a natural healer, Sarah Bate told him one day after he had spent an hour playing board games with a scared 8-year-old awaiting surgery. You have your mother's empathy and doctor's determination. That's a powerful combination. Caleb beamed at the compliment. His dream was to become a doctor himself someday, to help other kids the way he had been helped. Encouraged this aspiration, even setting up a mentorship program where Caleb could shadow various medical professionals and learn about different specialties. 2 years after their first meeting, on a warm spring afternoon, called Maya into his office. She had been expecting a routine check-in about foundation business, but she found him standing by the window with a thoughtful expression. "Maya, do you remember what you asked me the first time we talked on the phone?" said. "You asked why I was helping you, why I cared about a random black woman and her son that I met in an elevator." "I remember," Maya said. "You told me it wasn't random, that healing goes both ways." "I want to tell you the complete truth," said, turning to face her. "The elevator wasn't random. I was at that hospital that day specifically because I had heard about a woman who was bringing her son in for monthly checkups despite working 2 jobs, who never missed an appointment, who advocated fiercely for her child even when doctors dismissed her concerns. I had heard about you, Maya. From Doctor, actually. We're old colleagues, and we sometimes discuss interesting cases. He mentioned your situation, mentioned that he wished there was more he could do, but was limited by what insurance would cover." Maya stared at him in shock. "You sought us out." "I did," admitted. "I wanted to see for myself. I wanted to see if this mother and son were as remarkable as described. And the moment I saw you pushing that wheelchair, the protective way you responded to my question, the hope in Caleb's eyes despite years of disappointment, I knew. I knew you were exactly the kind of family Sarah would have wanted me to help." "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Maya asked. "Because I wanted you to choose to trust me, not feel obligated because I had researched your situation," explained. "I wanted our relationship to be built on genuine connection, not on you feeling indebted or manipulated. Was I wrong to approach it that way?" Maya thought about it carefully. She thought about the fear she had felt in that elevator, the skepticism that had protected her heart for so long, the gradual building of trust that had grown naturally over time. If had revealed from the beginning that he had been looking for them specifically, would she have trusted him? Or would she have been suspicious of his motives? "No," Maya said finally. "You weren't wrong. If you had told me that first day that you had researched us, I probably would have run away. I would have thought you were some kind of stalker or that there was something sinister going on. The way you did it, letting us get to know you, letting trust develop naturally, that was right." Looked relieved. "I'm glad you understand. I felt guilty about not being completely forthcoming, but I genuinely believed it was the best approach." "Why are you telling me now?" Maya asked. "Because we're partners now," said simply. "Partners in this foundation, in this work, in this mission. Partners should be completely honest with each other. And because I want you to know that even though I sought you out, everything that happened after was genuine. My commitment to Caleb's recovery, my respect for you, my gratitude for how you've enriched my life and reminded me how to feel purpose again, all of that is real." Maya stepped forward and hugged him, something she had never done before despite the closeness that had developed between them over 2 years. Seemed surprised, but returned the embrace warmly. "Thank you," Maya said when they pulled apart. "Thank you for finding us, for helping us, for believing in us. Thank you for being honest now, and thank you for letting me be part of something bigger than myself." "Thank you for saying yes," replied. "Thank you for trusting me even when you had every reason to be skeptical. Thank you for working so hard, for believing in this mission, for helping build something that will outlast all of us." That evening, Maya and Caleb walked through the gardens at Horizon House together. It was something they did often now, enjoying the peaceful beauty of the space that had become their second home. Caleb walked steadily, his gait still not perfect but improving constantly. He no longer needed his cane for short walks like this. "Mama, can I ask you something?" Caleb said as they paused by a fountain. "Always, baby." "Do you ever think about Dad? About how different things would be if he had stayed?" Maya was quiet for a moment, considering her answer carefully. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But mostly I think about how we made it through without him, how we became stronger because we had to. Your father left because he couldn't handle the challenges, but that revealed who he really was. Doctor showed up because he wanted to help, and that revealed who he really is." "I'm glad Dad left," Caleb said, surprising Maya. I know that sounds mean, but if he had stayed, we never would have met Doctor. We never would have come to Horizon House. I wouldn't be walking right now, and you wouldn't be helping all those other families. Maya pulled Caleb close, kissed the top of his head. You're wise beyond your years, you know that. I learned from the best, Caleb grinned. They continued their walk, and Maya marveled at how much had changed since that day in the elevator 2 years ago. She thought about the woman she had been then, exhausted and hopeless, barely keeping her head above water. She thought about the woman she was now, purposeful and empowered, helping others while continuing to build a better life for herself and her son. She thought about the hidden billionaire who had asked a simple question that changed everything. Why did you bring your son in a wheelchair? At the time, she had heard judgment in those words, but what had really been asking was, why is this child not getting the help he needs? Why is the system failing this family? What can I do to change that? And he had changed it, not just for them but for dozens of families now, with more to come as the foundation expanded. He had taken his wealth, his skills, his grief over losing his wife, and transformed all of it into something beautiful and healing. 3 years after their first meeting, the Sarah Foundation held its first annual gala fundraiser. It was a grand affair at a downtown hotel, attended by wealthy donors, medical professionals, former patients and their families, and community members who supported the mission. Maya, wearing an elegant dress that still felt strange after years of living in work clothes and scrubs, stood on the stage preparing to speak. She looked out at the crowd and saw so many familiar faces. Doctor was there, smiling proudly. Sarah Bate, Dr. Reeves, Doctor, and the entire Horizon House team sat together at a front table. Emma and her mother were there, Emma now walking with leg braces and a walker, her face glowing with happiness. Other families the foundation had helped filled the room, living testimony to what was possible when resources and compassion came together. And there was Caleb, sitting at a table with other young patients, all of them dressed up and excited to be part of this celebration. He caught his mother's eye and gave her a thumbs up. Approached the podium first, welcoming everyone and explaining the foundation's mission and accomplishments. Then he introduced Maya. 3 years ago, I met a woman who taught me what true strength looks like. She taught me that healing goes both ways, that sometimes the healer needs healing too. She has become not just a colleague, but a friend and the heart and soul of this foundation. Please welcome Maya Johnson. The applause was thunderous as Maya stepped to the microphone. She had prepared remarks, but looking out at all these faces, all these lives that had been touched and changed, she set aside her notes and spoke from the heart. 3 years ago, I was a single mother working 2 jobs and barely getting by. My son had been told he would never walk again, and I had no way to afford the treatment that might help him. I felt powerless and hopeless, like I was failing the person I loved most in the world. She paused, her voice thick with emotion. Then a stranger in an elevator asked me a question that seemed intrusive and rude at the time. Why did you bring your son in a wheelchair? What I didn't know was that he wasn't judging me. He was challenging a system that said my son didn't deserve the best care because we couldn't afford it. He was asking why any child should have their future limited by their family's bank account. Maya looked at who was watching her with misty eyes. Doctor didn't just give my son the ability to walk again. He gave us back our hope. He gave us back our future. And he showed us that one person with resources and compassion can change the world one family at a time. She turned her attention back to the audience. The Sarah Foundation exists because Swife believed that healing should be for everyone, not just those who can afford it. She believed that every child deserves a chance, regardless of who their parents are or where they come from. Tonight, we celebrate that belief. We celebrate the families who have been helped, the children who have recovered, the hopes that have been restored. Maya felt tears flowing freely now. My son Caleb is walking tonight because someone cared enough to help when no one else could. He's walking because a man who had lost everything found purpose in giving others a chance. And now, through this foundation, we're making sure that more children get that same chance. No child should be told they can't be helped simply because their family can't afford it. No parent should have to choose between paying rent and getting their child treatment. That's what we're fighting to change. The applause was deafening. People rose to their feet, some crying, others cheering. Maya saw Caleb stand up, clapping proudly for his mother. She saw Emma and the other children they had helped, all of them living proof that the impossible could become possible with the right help. As the evening continued, Maya found herself surrounded by grateful parents, by people wanting to donate, by medical professionals asking how they could get involved. The foundation had started as one man's quest to honor his late wife's wishes, but it had grown into something bigger, a movement that was changing how healthcare could work when compassion led the way. Later, as the gala wound down, Maya found standing alone on a balcony overlooking the city lights. She joined him, and they stood in comfortable silence for a moment. "Sarah would have loved this," said quietly. "She would have loved meeting Caleb, seeing what we've built, knowing that her wish came true." "I wish I could have met her," Maya said. "She must have been an amazing woman." "She was," agreed. "But she would have loved you too, would have recognized a kindred spirit, a fighter, someone who never gives up." "I learned that from you," Maya said. "You taught me that it's okay to accept help, that strength isn't about doing everything alone." Smiled, "We taught each other. That's what the best relationships do." They stood together watching the city, two people who had been brought together by fate or providence or simply being in the right elevator at the right time. Neither of them knew what the future would hold, how many more children they would help, how far the foundation would grow. But they knew they would face it together, united by a shared mission to make sure no child was left behind simply because of money. Inside the ballroom, Caleb was teaching some younger children a game he had learned during his therapy. His laughter rang out, pure and joyful, the sound of a child who had been given a second chance and was making the most of it. Maya listened to that laugh and felt a peace she had never known before. 3 years ago, a stranger in an elevator had asked why she brought her son in a wheelchair. Today, she could answer that question differently. She had brought him there because she was his mother, and mothers never stop fighting for their children. She had brought him there because she refused to accept that his story was over. She had brought him there because she believed in miracles, even when she couldn't afford them. And against all odds, the miracle had found them. Not because they deserved it more than anyone else, but because one man chose to use his gifts for good, because one woman refused to give up hope, and because sometimes the universe conspires to bring together people who need each other. The hidden billionaire had asked a simple question, and in answering it, had changed everything. Not just for one family, but for hundreds of families who would come after them. The wheelchair that had defined Caleb's life for 3 years now sat mostly unused in their apartment, a reminder of where they had been and how far they had come. But more importantly, it was a reminder that no situation is truly hopeless, that help can come from unexpected places, and that healing is always possible when compassion meets capability. That was the legacy of the Sarah Foundation, and that was the gift that had given them. Not just the ability to walk, but the knowledge that they were never alone, never forgotten, never without hope. As Maya rejoined the celebration inside, followed, and together they continued the work that had started with a chance encounter in a hospital elevator. The work of healing, of hopping, of helping those who had been told there was no help to be found. The work that would continue long after any of them were gone, touching lives they would never meet, creating ripples of hope that would spread far beyond what they could imagine. And somewhere Maya liked to think, Sarah was smiling, knowing that her final wish had been honored in the most beautiful way possible in a wheelchair. You were always enough, always worthy, always capable of amazing things. The wheelchair didn't define you then, and walking doesn't define you now. What defines you is your spirit, your courage, your kindness. Those things never changed. We needed it, because paying it forward is the only way I know how to make sense of what I've been through. And because you and Caleb deserve it most of the time. "And then I'd be able to walk?" Caleb asked hopefully. Maya pushed Caleb's wheelchair toward the bus stop, her mind full of possibilities and fears and hopes that she hadn't dared to feel in years. She thought about the man in the gray hoodie, the hidden billionaire who had approached them in an elevator and offered them a chance at a miracle.